No, eventually izophelela enyangeni. Sekumele manje thina sikhuluma into yahlula ugogo wakho. Oh, incwadi mkhanya. Yeah man, greetings once again. It's aba ayale wamlak heruseke mankamun, silo samanzi uzinyo lengwenya. Boya bengwe, uchaye ngumbono utukutu mandlana udla umvubu ukhipha ukete. Bakwethu namhlanje ngifuna sike sixoxe. I want us to talk about the calendar. I want us to talk about time and the calculation of said time. We've heard throughout history, we've heard too many people talk on different occasions, on different topics regarding the topic of the calendar. We've heard about the Julian calendar, we've heard about the Gregorian calendar, we've heard about the Kemetic calendar, we've heard about the Babylonian calendar, the Sumerian calendar, the British calendar. What is this phenomena called the calendar? Now, the word calendar, first of all, to start with, comes from a Latin word calendura, which comes from earlier Greek calenduram, which means the calculation of the monthly cycle, because they were calculating festive days. So the word calendar actually comes from festivities, festivals, days for festivities. And then later on in Rome, it became associated with the day of national taxation, where now you'd have to go and pay your taxes to the Senate on a monthly basis. And so it became a calculation, a time calculation instrument. Yes, we've heard the Sumerians have the oldest calendar in the world. We've had the Egyptian debate. Good to know they have the oldest calendar in the world. And then we've had the Babylonian debate. Good to know the Babylonians have the oldest calendar in the world. And then we have the African debate that actually everything started in Africa. Africa has the oldest calendar in the world. I'm of the opinion that everybody everywhere in the world had a way of calculating time. Remember, time is not a natural phenomena. Time is a construct. Time is an illusion. Time is something that only exists in the bounds of context. And why I say this, how can time not be real? How can time only exist within the bounds of context? If while we are having this conversation, me and you right now, and you happen to doze off for 30 seconds, when you snap out of that doze, how long did it feel like you were sleeping for? Was it 30 seconds? Was it 30 minutes? An hour maybe? More? Can you really tell time when you're not conscious of your environment and your surroundings? If you're asleep, does time move the same as when you're awake? Do we share the same concept of time with mentally disturbed people? Lento sithi amahlanya, dihafi, ditseno. Do they understand an hour like we do? As you grow older, does time seem to move faster than it used to? Ever asked yourself the question, where did the day go? Where did the week go? Where did time go? But if you'd ask a child of 7 years old, they wouldn't understand that concept. Because for them, there's so much more time within the time that we perceive. Within the hour that we panic about, A 7-year-old has 6-7 hours to play and explore and travel the whole imaginary world and then come back before the hour is done. And you are irritated because it's just been an hour. Is time real or is time a construct? I'm of the opinion that time is a construct. Time depends on who you are, what you believe, and what it is that you want to achieve. If both of us wake up today, I have to get to work to sit in front of this camera to talk to you. You have to wake up and go nowhere. Who is pressed for time between me and you? Who's running late between me and you? Who is early between me and you? Time is a construct. Time is only relevant within the bounds of context. Outside context, time does not exist. This is why we have Zenani time, which is dream time. We have now time, and then we have a future time. But how long is an hour in the future if we've not yet gotten there? How long is 5 minutes in the future? How long is 30 minutes in the past? When you are telling a story about something that happened 10 years ago, that only took 10 minutes to happen, do you take exactly 10 minutes to tell the story? Or does it expand? Or does it decrease? How long is 5 minutes 5 years ago? How long was an hour yesterday? Because today you did more things than you did yesterday within the same period of time. Time is determined by us. Time is determined by perspective. Time is a construct. Now, to say that there is a universal standard way of calculating time, for me, is an academic fallacy. It's an intellectual falsity. It's a logical inconsistency. It doesn't make sense. It can't happen. Simply because of this. We know the yearly cycles of the seasons. We know that right now we are, September, October, entering November now, right? According to this calendar we're using. We are 2 months into spring, going towards summer. But we know that in America right now, there are 3 months into autumn, going into winter. We know that. If we know that, how can we have a standardized universal time calculating tool? How can we have a universal standard calendar? Because what we are experiencing now in the southern hemisphere, in the northern hemisphere, they are not experiencing. Let's make it even worse. In South Africa, we have the Tropic of Capricorn passing just Sigub Manj. This is Joburg. So that way, towards Limpopo. Yeah, we have the Tropic of Capricorn passing there. Climate patterns, weather changes, season changes don't happen the other side of the Tropic of Capricorn like they happen on this side of the Tropic of Capricorn. In South Africa, we have coastal areas that have 4 seasons in one day. We have Cape Town with its crazy weather. We have Port Elizabeth with its crazy weather. I don't know how they do it in Natal. It's crazy weather, coastal weather. If we're going to look at just South Africa, and you look at the people living within South Africa, just to name a few, you have amaXhosa, you have amaZulu, you have abaTswana nabeSotho. Let's talk about these 3 people. Gamnandi, these 3 people happen to surround one mountain, the Drakensberg Mountain. On the other side of the Drakensberg Mountain, you find uZulu. On the other side of the Drakensberg Mountain, you find uXhosa. On top of the Drakensberg Mountain, you find umSotho. The Xhosa celebrate their new year when the red coral tree starts to blossom. They call it umsintsi. That is late August, mid-August towards September. By that time, on top of the mountain, umSotho has already celebrated his new year, and they call it Lwetse. Later, after uXhosa, uZulu celebrates his new year, uMandulo. Ukhipha umhlanga neyintombi. One mountain, 3 nations. Their New Year's Day is not on the same day. Their months, their year doesn't start on the same day. Yes, we may generalize because we are people of generality. You know, we like to generalize things, even things that are not generalizable. Even things that are not generalizability. We force a generalization. The reason why abeSotho celebrate their new year when they do is totally different from the reason why uXhosa celebrates his new year when she does, which is the totally different reason why uZulu celebrates her new year when she does. So we cannot generalize these things. And we may force the generality by saying, no, it all happens within the same 30 days. A lot can happen in one day. A lot can happen in 5 days. How much more in 30 days? So, we're going to talk about the calendar. And of course, I'm just one scholar amongst I don't know how many scholars since Copernicus and Galileo, and even before them. I'm just one scholar who studied this and came to my own conclusions as well. And I urge you, like I've said before, and I will continue to say, do your own research. Don't take what I'm saying and make it gospel truth. But if it makes sense to you, let's share ideas. If it doesn't make sense to you, yeah, free to oppose and free to go against and free to question and debate. But ad hominem syndrome bagwethu. Asimeni kancane ngayo. But today I'm going to be reading from incwadi la. This book is one of the books in the collection that I'm working on. It's called The True African Time Computation and the Mulu Mulu Matendera, The Zodiac of Self-Realization and the Abakali Pibogukanya Application of Astrological Principles for Enlightenment and Soul Perfection. I'm going to jump straight to chapter 4 and read Bantu time calculation and the yearly cycle. At the beginning, there was nothingness or non-being. The first cause begot itself, and out of this nothingness, and came to be known as Umtali, the self-begotten one, or the ultimate principle of being. This being manifested itself as a triune principle made up of mind, male, thought, female, and word, the offspring of the two. This triune principle took the form of absolute light that existed before the birth of universes. The principle of oneness or unity underlying all existence is therefore a triune principle of light known as the One or the Good. There are 10 principles which emanated from the One and took the form of a spiral, 10 concentric circles, or a python biting its own tail. These symbols represent the Universal Virgin Mother, Unomtabugo, at the center of the galaxy or in the region of the Milky Way. The Universal Virgin Mother gave birth to the spiritual father, mother, and child, symbolized by the 3 stars of the Orion's belt. These stars are 3 in 1 and 1 in 3, and are also conceived as the spiritual father, Umhambi, the traveler. The stars Sirius A and B that emanated from the stars of the Orion belt represent the cosmic mother and child, Umvelingangi. This cosmic family is also symbolized by the solar emblem. This emblem represents the bull of heaven and the 4 gods who guard the 4 quarters of the universe. The bull of heaven and the cosmic spirit that emanates from it are represented by a wheel of light, which makes out the nerve center of the universe. This wheel of light unfolded itself into the great and the little universe. From their child, the great Virgin Mother, and for their child, the great Virgin Mother and the first cause fashioned a goddess after their image and likeness, but from all the physical aspects of the spirit, and named her Eternal Virgin Unomkhubulwane. The heavenly couple therefore became the first to inhabit the physical world and gave birth to the 9 nations of Abantu, who populated the land of the gods, called in the Nguni tongue Ningizimu, which means the land of many gods. Now, this solar system is founded on the Bantu philosophy according to Abakali Pibokanya, which is a system that speaks about the cosmic, the cosmologies as they are in the cultures in existence, and most of these cosmologies were never and still are not recorded. But this is because most indigenous cultures, as is with the Bantu, this knowledge was transmitted from word to mouth in storytelling circles, hence the rich oral traditions of the Bantu. In this book, we will concentrate only on the Bantu cosmology and astrology, as well as astrotheology, according to Abakali Pibokanya. Now, this is a cosmological story. It's a story that speaks about principles, not beings. So we are not saying, I'm not sitting here saying, yeah, there was this person, Wahamba, when, no. It's principles of how existence came into being, continues to go into being, and will continue after we go into being. And it all starts with thought, mind, and word, or mind, thought, and word. The Father, the Mother, and the child, the triune spirit of the divine light, the great light, the dark light, the black sun, if you may, the triple self of who we are within before we become what we say we are without. How did the Bantu compute time and seasons? As we all know that time is divided into sections of seconds, minutes, hours, days, etc. We will now explore how the Bantu define their view of time. It is said that people's concept of time is based on the movement and behavior of astronomical bodies, which are certain stars or constellations, even planets. It is true also for the Bantu, but we will stretch it further a little. As well as taking astronomical bodies into consideration, also considered natural phenomena and certain animal patterns and behaviors. This led to them naming seasons, months, as well as days after such observations, such as the month of Ntulikazi, the great dust, which speaks to the heavy winds that carry dust throughout the land. According to the Nguni, the year begins around the month known as September, called by different names. The Xhosa call it Eyomsintsi, the indigenous name for the bright coast coral tree, which spouts its beautiful red flowers at the beginning of the spring season called Intwasahlobo. The Zulu call this month Umandulo, which means beginning. Ukwandula is to initiate, to start, to begin. Thus, it speaks to the fact that nature is springing from its slumber of the cold winter. While the Sotho call it Luetsi, which refers to Lebisi Luetsi, meaning the milk is overflowing, since the cows have given birth to calves. The cows have given birth to calves in numbers, and the milk is abundant. As shown above, the Bantu observed natural phenomena and animal patterns and realized that these phenomena occur in cyclic patterns, which then led to calculating how many moons and suns until the next phenomena occurred. This resulted in recording a cycle of repeating phenomena, which came to hold great significant meaning to the Bantu, to the point of shaping their lives around these events. They decided to record these events so as to preserve the knowledge of time, so as to be able to plan rituals, ceremonies, and days of national as well as personal importance. These recordings came in the form of stone engravings, stone circles, pyramids, etc., notches on walls, so as they could last for thousands of years. Now, how did we calculate time? According to indigenous knowledge system, a day is divided into 5 parts, named according to the position of the sun. The division went further into segments of those parts called imizuzu, which refers to the movement of the shade on the ground, and imizuzwana, which basically means within the shade movements. We never had the concept of hours, let alone the belief that there are 24 hours in a day, 12 hours of sunlight, 12 hours of night. We did not even have a word for hour. All the words used to call an hour are borrowed words, like iure is Afrikaans, ir, and the Zulu hora is the English hour. To the Bantu, day and night are divided into 5 parts each, resulting in a division on a complete day into 10 parts. A month to the Bantu is made up of 5 weeks and 12 months in the year. The months are named after the astronomical and natural phenomena that are prevalent during those months. Right. Now, when we're going to talk about the day. I'll show you just a quick silly example about how Africans considered what we now call a day. When the sun comes out in the morning, if you put your hand like this, right, at the moment of sunrise on the horizon, you put your little finger on the horizon like that, and you stretch your hand until your thumb is at a right angle with your pinky, like that, right? Those are the 5 divisions of the day. Let's name them. Ugusa, right? Matha. Ilanga liyaphuma ke Matsheng ekuseni. Ilanga liyaphakama. Ilanga maselifike phezu kwakho kuthiwa ini kusemini maqanda, right? Enjikalanga. And then ngokuhlwa. Now, if you count these 5 segments of the day, you can see them on your hands. Kuyasa, liyaphakama, lisenhloko, injikalanga, kuyahlwa. 5 divisions of the day. And those are the words that we use in all our languages. Abanye bathi riperile, abanye baripenzile. Siyawazi wonke lama language wethu bakwethu. I'm not a linguist. But in all our languages, we divide the day into 5 segments. And the other 5, ayithi kuhlwile manje. Aha, kuqala ke manje ubusuku. Sithi kuse malanga. Kube sebusuku. Ibe yinzulu yobusuku. Injika busuku nomsobomvu. 5 divisions of the night, 5 divisions of the day. Masihlangene, you have 10 divisions of the day into 10 parts, not 12 hours. And this is not to say 12-hour work clock doesn't work. No. Ngintshela ngathi ukuthi thina sasibala kanjani before all of that happened. Now, 5 divisions for the day, 5 divisions for the night, 10 divisions for the day. Africans, our week was 6 days. Let's count it. Umvulo, Musupuluho, Labobedi, ulwesibini, Laboraro, ulwesithathu, Labune, ulwesine, Labohlanu, ulwesihlanu, Muqibelo, Umgqibelo. Umvulo, open. Umgqibelo, finished. We never had a 7th day in our calculation of the week. We wouldn't know what to call it. What is between ukuvula nokuvala? What comes between opening and closing? Is it touching the door, maybe? Turning the key, maybe? So we'll call the 7th day ukjiga key. No, it doesn't happen. We wouldn't have a name for it. Let's look at the name of the 7th day in all our languages. Sondag. Sondag is Afrikaans. Is nie ons taal nie. Is Afrikaanse taal. En wat gebeur op 'n Sondag? Ons gaan kerk toe. Hang it? Right. Let's look at the other name that Batswana, Basotho, Mapedi call Sunday, Sondag. Latshipi. the day of the bell. Which bell are they referring to? The cowbell? Because the cowbell goes every day when the cows are moving around. So which bell? It's the church bell on the steeple that calls people to church. La tshipi. Kiting, 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 kiting. Bana tlong kerekeng. Let's look at the other languages, how we call it. Isonto. Kuyini konje isonto? Isonto. It's church. Ngesixhosa sithi icawa. I've heard people argue, but we actually called it ingawa. Ingawa ingubo. Don't get confused. Ingawa ingubo. Icawe. Church. So if we did not have a church, what would we call that day? Let me give you a chance. You. 6 days a week that we had. And our week was not 4 weeks, it was 5 weeks. So we counted 5 cycles before we moved on to the next cycle. And then we ended up with 13 months. This is why all the travelers, all the explorers, all the colonizers, all the people who came to Africa, the royals, the aristocrats, they came here to Africa because they were promised 13 months of sunshine. 13 months of sunshine. That's why they came flocking to Africa. Because they never heard of 13 months of sunshine. Hey, never. The only other people who have 13 months are the Orthodox churches. But it's not 13 months of sunshine, it's 13 months of the year. We know in Ethiopia they still do that. We know the Byzantines in Turkey, Nagopi, Manje. Some of them are still using that, especially in Greece, in Mount Athos, the monks there definitely still using Byzantine time, which renders them anything between 7 to 14 years behind our present calendar. Which brings us to another issue. We say it's 2024, 2024 years after the birth of our Domina, the birth of our Lord, Anno Domino. We are Africans, ngamaXhosa thina. We don't consider that Lord. And in us not considering that Lord means to say it's 2024 in our time calculation is a falsity, is a lie. Because what was so special about this Jewish boy that we started counting our time from his birth or his death? Instead, how Africans calculated years to say how many years or what year are we in today? No, this is 5 years after the drought. This is 10 years after King Vulumnyango Dlamini sat on the throne. This is 2 years after the Queen Mother passed away. This is 7 years after the heavy rains. That's how Africans calculated the years. So for me, it's 2 years after my dog died. 2 years after my dog died. Bengithanda injaya muthaisini purpul. So I'm counting my time from that. It was a big event in my life. You are calculating your time from when you broke up with your boyfriend. So it's what, 6 years now? And you are calculating your time since akuqomile usibongile angithi. It's 3 months now since inqonyo usibongile. So we cannot have the same year. But we can experience the same cycles. And these are the cycles. Africans, we had festivals and festivities and ceremonies throughout the year. Like I said, we calculated our days 6 days a week, 6 weeks a month, 5 weeks a month, 6 days a week, 5 weeks a month, 13 months a year, right? And during those days or those years, that year, those months, we have festivals. The first festival was going to be Intwasahlobo, the New Year, which KwaZulu they celebrate ngomhlanga. It's celebrated in many ways. KwaXhosa kuyasilwa, kubizwa abantwana, kusinwe, kuxhentswe kube mnandi, kuxhelwe, kucelelwe unyaka, kuthiwa kuchithwe inkobe zalo nyaka uphelileyo. Abatswana, konje abatswana bayibiza ngizobuza uRhabo uzongitshela. I know when you go out of Africa, South Africa, ukhuphuka, they call it the Yam Festival, because the first crop that ripens in that area, Central Africa, is the yam. So they make beer of the yam, they make food of the yam, and then they celebrate the yam. Now, it's sonke man, say celebrate talento. After that, we go into plowing, seeding the field. And then we go into rain-making ceremonies around October. Because now the seeds are in the ground, we need the rain because summer now, the sun is going to kick in. So we need rain. So rain-making ceremonies start to happen September, October. And then we go to December, 3 months after. We have Thanksgiving ceremonies. Incwala, Dikhafela, Umkhosi wokweshwama, kwaXhosa. We have all these ceremonies. 3 months later, it's harvest time. That which we planted in September 6 months ago and we gave thanks for 3 months later, now we are completely harvesting it just before winter. That harvest becomes a big ceremony now. Kuthathwa yonke into kuyovalelwa emaselweni ke ngoku, in preparation for winter. But after all of that is done, now we have enough food to do the last ceremonies of the year. We watch the sky. When the star canopus comes out, uCanzibe. We know that abafana nentombi manje bayaphuma ekhaya baye ehlathini for initiation. During that 3 months of winter, of its initiation, seclusion from everyday life, so that by the time springtime comes back and they're having the last harvest before autumn ends, before winter ends, before spring comes back, there is the last harvest, the last final sweep. There's going to be festivities and ceremony and food for those children who came back after 3 months bebuya initiation. As the year starts, they are starting a new life as well, as men and young women, or young men and young women. Omunye uzothi why uthi men marabo woman uthi young women. No, as young men and beautiful young women. Yabona ngisho ukuthi beautiful young men, ngithi beautiful young women. After that, the year is over. And then we wait for the next cycle. So all these ceremonies are there to remind us of the time of day, the time of the year, the mathematics of the day. You know? They're here to remind us about what's happening, how we need to prepare ourselves, how we need to prepare our environment, how we align ourselves with everything around us, how to be on time. There's a lot esingakhuluma ngayo man. For those who don't know the names ngesintu, I'll just give you nje like enfundele nje kancane nje. ezesiXhosa nesiZulu. EyoMsintsi is the first month, which is late August, September. Umandulo ke loyo. EyeDwarha, umfumfu ngesiZulu. EyeNkanga, uLwezi ngesiZulu. EyoMnga, uZibandlela ngesiZulu. EyoMqungu, uMasingana ngesiZulu. EyoMdumba, uNhlolanja ngesiZulu. That's February now. And then these months have 31 days, 30 days each, which make up the summer months. Then we go to March. EyoNkwindla, uNdasa, uChazimpunzi, uMbasa, uCanzibe, Inhlaba, Isilimela, uNhlangulana, EyeKhala, uNtulikazi, EyeThupha, uNcwaba. Ngoba sekuqala ukuvela uhlaza kuyancwaba. Hey, basho amaZulu. These months make up the winter season, each with 30 days. These months are spread across 2 seasons, which are subdivided into 4, namely Inhlakohlaza or Intwasahlobo, Kisilimo, Ihlobo, Lihlabula, Enkwindla, Siyetibusiku, Ubusika, Mariha. It was further found that the moon also has a 14-day cycle of manifestation from new moon to full moon, and another 14 days from full moon to dark moon. Now, if you calculate 14 times 2, we get to 28. Then we add the 2 days where the moon is hidden from sight, the dark moon. We get a total of 30 days, making up what we know as Inyanga Khwedi, the month or month. Called this after the moon, Khwedi, Inyanga. This monthly cycle of the moon of 30 days is repeated for 13 months. Thus, we have 360 days of the year. For 12 months, thus we have 360 days of the year. This became known as the lunar year because it was calculated based on the cycle of the moon. It also marked important festivals and sacred days, such as new moon festivals, of national ceremonies which were planned to align with a full moon. Such as new moon festivals and national ceremonies which were planned to align with the full moon. This is because the moon is visible to all people everywhere. So all people were able to tell the time by counting the moons. Like it has been mentioned before, the Bantu based their time computation on their observation of natural as well as astronomical behaviors. Thus, our concept of the year. To the Xhosa, the year begins with the appearance of the flowers of Umsintsi and ends when the star system Isilimela, the Pleiades cluster, appears high in the sky. This cluster represents a plow and signals a time to prepare for the coming new year with the springtime activities. The appearance of the star Ucanzibe, in Greek Canopus, signals the time for the year for harvesting the fields of all grain that was left behind and the completion of the initiation rites of passage. It goes on Lengwati and talks about this, how to calculate the solar and lunar calendar and the festivals, what the festivals are in details, and it also speaks about the zodiac according to our African understanding. I'm not here to talk about this book. I was here to talk about how to calculate time and how do we view our calendar. Again, this is not to say how the Greeks calculated time, how the Babylonians calculated time, how the Romans calculated time, how the Mesopotamians calculated time, how the Sumerians calculated time, how the Egyptians calculated time, how the Druids calculated time, how the Celts calculated time, how the Mayans and the Mexicans calculated time. This is not to say they are wrong. For God's sake, there are 3,000 zodiac signs in the Chinese zodiac. And we are debating 12. 3,000 signs in the zodiac. They have the pig there. They have the locust there. Thina sixabana ngenkomo namafish. Ayini bakwethu. Calculation of time is a universal phenomena. We can calculate our time differently starting from today, Nat. Nobody's forcing us to go according to a design. The reason why the Gregorian calendar was set as a universal calendar is because Pope Gregory made it so. Because of the missions that were sent throughout the whole world to Christianize the whole world. So that it's a control measure. So that we are all on time. We all celebrate Christmas at the same time. We all celebrate Easter at the same time. We all celebrate Lent at the same time. Ascension Day at the same time. St. Patrick's Day, St. Mary's Day, St. Elizabeth's Day. Angazi St. Josephina yena bazomfaka nini inkosi yami. But it was there so that we could all be available at the same time on the same day to do the same thing religiously. Traditionally, culturally, the whole world was displaced by this calendar. The whole world, not only Africans. It was fed to the Chinese as well. It was fed to the Jews as well. I mean, the Jews' year starts in March. The Egyptian year starts in March, not in September. You just leave Israel and go to Babylon, their year starts in May. You go to China, their year starts somewhere else. We cannot have a universal new year. We can't. In South Africa, we have our Heritage Day on the 23rd of September. Or 24th of September. Yeah, we know why it's heritage, because somebody died on those days. But it's Heritage Day, and it is celebrated by us as our new year. Nothing wrong with that. That's a beautiful initiative. In Ethiopia, they're celebrating it on the 11th. They call it Enkutatash. 11th of September. Kwaxhosa, they had already celebrated it maqala inyanga yomsintsi, which is late August. But Sotho had already celebrated it when the monthly weights started. So we cannot have a standardized calendar for all of us. We can learn from each other's calendars and learn why, and understand the astronomy behind it, the cosmology behind it, the history behind it, the significance. But to standardize it is a falsity. It's an intellectual lack of fitness. Because now we are disregarding other people's calculations and other people's perspectives. It is good to calculate in everything. I calculate my steps when I walk. I need to know from where I'm sitting to where this camera is, there's four steps, 5 steps. I need to know that. I need to know from where I'm sitting to the door, I took 6 steps to get here. I need to know from the door to the main door how many steps I took. From the car to the main door how many steps I took. I'm crazy like that. I count how many people there are in the room. I have to know. So it's good to know what time it is. It's good to know what time it is. But don't limit yourself to one school of thought. Like I said, this is according to Abakhalipi Bokanya and what I teach my students. It's not a universal standard. Do your own research. and enjoy it while you're doing it. Enjoy it while you're at it. You'll discover that if you look at the Egyptian time calculation calendar example, there's myths about gods and heroes there, you know. If you look at the Druids calendar, there's myths and gods, the Greeks. All of these things are the beauties of the human intellect, the beauties of us being human. Instead of opposing each other all the time, let's learn from each other. Instead of finding fault in each other all the time, let's try and learn from each other and build each other and develop each other. Because one thing I can tell you, Africans didn't come up with the science, any science, in a void. As much as the Chinese didn't come up with gunpowder in a void. As much as the Swedes didn't come up with yogurt in a void. You know, if you follow how ice cream started, it started in Arabia, where those people in the desert discovered a way to freeze ice, crush it, and mix it in with their fruits so that they could drink it cold. And then a traveler from Spain, and this is not my history, I heard it from somebody else relating this history. I may get it wrong, but I'm just describing a journey of how something got to where it is now. Some traveler from somewhere in Spain or Turkey experienced sitting a maslashi, this crushed ice juice, what, discovered this and said, wow, this is very nice. How about I put real fruit in it? And then he went back to his home and sold the same thing differently with real fruit. And then someone said, no, but we could fit milk into this. And it became a creamy, milky beverage until it got to France and someone said, no, let's just freeze the milk. And then we have ice cream today. So can the French, this is not accurate, but hypothetically, can the French now claim that they designed ice cream or they discovered ice cream? No, the Arabs can say that in Arabia. But the Arabs came across ice by mistake. There's no ice in the desert. So it's the person who came with ice there who discovered ice cream. But it was not his ice. Innovation, civilization is a cooperative effort, bagwetu. Each one teach one, bachamarasta. Iron sharpen iron. We learn from each other and teach each other. Yes, there are political agendas behind certain things. Like I said, the Gregorian calendar is political. And it's applied politically, you know. There is the Julian calendar. It's politically, and it's applied politically. Hey. In Kemet, example, there were 4 calendars, not only one. As our counted Ngititina Bantu, we have a solar calendar, we have a lunar calendar, and then we have an agricultural calendar. We have 3 calendars. And then the 4th calendar was the administrative calendar. La kuphuma khona imikhosi yasebukhosini yaseNdlunkulu. Inkundla ezinkulu zethu. Right. In Egypt, it was similar. You had your administrative calendar that dealt with administration of everyday things. You had your temple calendar, if you could call it that. And then you had your legislative calendar, your legal calendar. Like we have in government today, you have the year starts May 31st, 1st January, 31st December, 1st January, but you have a fiscal year. You have your fiscal year somewhere in the middle of the year, and then you have your administrative year in November somewhere. You understand? So the year starts in South African government. Parliament does not start on the 1st of January. That's not Parliament's New Year. Corner like South Africa. And the business year is not on the same day as the Parliament's New Year, and is not on the 1st of January. So every nation had different calendars. This is why I'm saying a calendar is not a standardized thing to lock people in a time grid. Again, remember, time is only relevant within context. Hence, fiscal year. So the time of the fiscal year is only relevant in finance. The Happy New Year, 1st January, is only relevant to get us drunk before we take our children to school. Broke. Who's about to January is a whole year on its own. Because when I'm Happy New Year, when we on Kimali, there is a school year that's going to start. And the school year doesn't start on the 1st of January. So you mixed years apart. Now you mixed years now together. Ukete imali ye school year, nge Happy New Year. And manje fiscal year ayikaqali bonus ayikaphumi. Do you understand ukuthi to standardize time out of context would be careless and reckless of us? Let's look at time from another perspective. Let's see time for what it is. Time is a tool created by us to help us move along and put things into order. It's not a system of control. But it's interesting to know about time and the calculation of all of these things. It's beautiful science. Let's go out there, learn, and be more scientific. Give thanks.